Socially engaged art is a practice in which artists are less focused on just being people who make objects. Instead, they're focused on making experiences for people that are new and interesting and build new connections between people. So it's a little different than just making something and putting it in the gallery and hoping somebody likes it. Instead, I'm coming from a standpoint where I think, what do I want people to have? What experience do I want them to have in this gallery? I'm always asking myself, why? Why this form? Why am I the person to make it? Why this color? Why this shape? Why this material? I ask people, what is it that you want to take from this? When you get in your car and you drive away, what is the one thing you want to remember not to forget? And people say every single time, I want to remember to slow down. I want to remember that I need to listen more. My name is Shauna Le Ann Smith. I'm an artist who blends art making and community building. My childhood was filled with imagination. My family and we didn't have any money, so we really had to invent our own entertainment. And so that has enabled me to be very creative from a young age. I grew up with some educational challenges. I was in many special ed classes, and I remember that the only thing I was really good at was making art. In 5th grade, I was creating this collage. It was of a woman's face. And I remember having a vision for what I was trying to achieve, and every day checking in with that vision, knowing how I could push the piece further. And that was also the first time I heard my name called over the intercom at my elementary school when I had won an award for that same piece. And all of this has shaped who I am as an artist, both as somebody who's really focused on a place, the place around me, but also focused on creating my own day-to-day life through imagination. My process of making art always starts with a day-to-day observation practice. I start from a place of observing what's happening around me and what's happening within. I care a lot about staying present with my own feelings and then what's also happening at the collective level. I think of my work as being solution-oriented or a response to what's happening. And so once I get an idea in which I feel like I could respond to something, I know that that idea is worth further investigation whenever it feels truly authentic and intentional. Once I have that idea, I then go into a writing process. When you look at my sketchbook, it's about 90% writing and just a few sketches. And that writing is where I'm really able to build out the idea, build out the concept, and work through all my choices. Then finally, I get to the point where I decide what the project's going to look like. So again, it's coming from concept or wanting a certain experience for people, and then I build the form or the material that will best match what that concept is. So currently in my practice, I am working with handmade paper processes. The way that I got to this process was a life-altering event. About 1.5 years ago, my brother passed away unexpectedly. His name was Joshua Smith, and his spirit is something I take with me in everything I do. That event changed everything I knew, including how I felt about being an artist, including how I was or was not able to show up to the studio. After a few months, I knew that I had to get back into relationship with myself as an artist and with my studio practice. And so I asked a friend to teach me how to make paper. What I do love about this process is that it's very forgiving. Any mistake you can make can be fixed. You can rip that piece of paper back up, put it in a blender, turn it back into pulp, and make something brand new. And it was a process that I fell in love with instantly. It brought me joy. It also invited me to play again. And joy and play, all of that is essential anytime, but especially during times of deep, deep grief. And so since then, I've continued this process of working with handmade paper. I think there's a poetic connection between working with pulp and water and the cyclical patterns of nature where even ends have potential. The paperwork that I'm making is very visually quiet. It's extremely minimal. From across the room, they essentially look like blank pieces of paper. And only through close observation, through somebody choosing to approach it and spend a moment with it, are they able to have the image revealed to them. I'm also putting light inside many of these pieces, and symbolically, the light speaks of hope. But also what happens is when people do choose to stand in front of the work and slow down with it, they are basked with this warm, gentle light as a form of reciprocation, as a mutual exchange of attention or of standing still together. I want this work to invite people to slow down, to take a breath, to have a moment of introspection, to check within. So by keeping the design quite minimal, I'm hoping that it allows them to look inward and not just outward at the piece. How we are feeling. I started that project in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. So simply put, I knew I wanted to create an experience for people to gather in a safe and creative way, and for people to talk about how they were feeling. I decided that it needed to be a community event. It needed to be in public open spaces and green spaces across of Springfield. I decided that everybody needed to sit in a circle because it's a non-hierarchical seating arrangement. I decided what the conversation would be, which was simply, but also powerfully, just responding to the question, how are you feeling? How are you actually feeling? The other thing I did for this project is I handcrafted these large spools. The spools had rope wrapped around them. And I invited people that every time during that conversation that they felt a connection with other people, to make that connection visible by drawing a line between themselves and one another every time that they felt a connection. And those lines bridged the social distance that we'd all been experiencing and also offered people the reminder that they are not alone. At the end, we were left with these really dense webs of connection as evidence of our time together, caring for one another. I'm inspired by the fact that people all across the world, all across time, have created things from their own aliveness. The people have used their hands, their stories, their experiences to make things for the world. And I can't think of anything more creative or inspiring than that.